Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, city officials, and our home audience. I'd like to welcome you to the February 12th City Council meeting. Tonight we have 7 items on our agenda. If you would, Mr. Fawson, at this time, please roll call the members.
Corcoran.
Here.
Fairchild.
Here.
Florima. Here. Hines. Here. Kearney.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
Cole. Here. Tatman. Here.
We have full attendance this evening. If everybody would, please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of the previous meeting have been distributed for review. Does anybody have any corrections or anything they would like to add? If not, do I have a motion to accept the minutes? The motion to accept by Mrs. Neal, seconded by Mr. Hines. Roll call on that motion, please.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Fairchild.
Yes.
Florima.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney. Neal.
Yes. Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Tatman. Yes.
So the minutes from the previous meeting have been accepted. At this time, we have reports from our committees. Who would like to go first? Mr. Cole?
The Finance Committee has one item on tonight's agenda. That is item number 7, which is at first reading. It is to amend Chapter 163, Income Tax of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Chillicothe. This has to do with changes that were brought about in House Bill 49, and it's something that we must do as a result of that, some language changes. At the appropriate time, I will ask that we waive the 3-read rule so that we can get these changes made. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Any other committee reports? Yes, Mr. Hines?
Thank you, Mr. President. The City Services Committee has 3 items on the agenda, number 4, 5, and 6, all of which are items that keep us up to speed on our normal yearly maintenance, the solid waste management plan, the bids, authorizing the state director to advertise for bids, enter contracts for supplies and maintenance and repair of equipment, and the annual ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program for salt. They're all in their first reading, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. Any other committee reports? Mr. Tatman?
Thank you, President Earl. The Engineering Committee has 2 items on the agenda tonight. Number 1 item is the rezoning of property on Western Avenue. And it has to do with the Atomic Credit Union wanting to build a building out there. And also item number 3, and this has to do with the changes around the new schools. We've got a kind of agreement in this legislation that the city and the schools work together to do the changes necessary for the new schools to help with the traffic. And I guarantee you, with all the kids from all over town coming to one area, it's going to be entertaining. The Engineering Committee also had a meeting last month, and we discussed the 2-way streets going back on 2nd Street. And our committee approved the changes to 2-way, but we referred back to the Finance Committee and are requesting that the Finance Committee review the finances and see if it's going to be appropriate for us to finance this venture. The prices went from last year, $200,000 down to $150,000, and now I don't know where it's at to take care of changing the signage, the striping of the street, the signal that paint and second was the most expensive item. And they made a suggestion to make it a 4-way stop sign, and we thought that wasn't a bad idea, but we'll have to see how that goes. Now, the other one we discussed, it was the streetscape downtown. And our committee could not agree on this. Only thing we agreed on the streetscape issue was that it's gotta be done. And we request that the city work with the downtown people and hopefully we come up with a plan of whether the city helps with the financing or whether there's another way to do it. Because years ago when they did the streetscape, there was no firm written agreement on who was going to maintain streetscape. So that is a big issue now because there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So hopefully the administration will work with the downtown people and we'll come up with a solution. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chapman. Yes, Ms. Fairchild?
Thanks, President Arnold. I would like to ask at the appropriate time that we amend number 3 on the agenda, the ordinance authorizing traffic and signal changes for the schools. Section number 2 has an amendment needed. The road parallel to, it should be the west of Ringwald Street, not the east, in the second line.
I have a motion to make an amendment to item number 3 as you just specified. Seconded by Mr. Hines.
I'm sorry, could I have a wording on that change? Section
Section 2,
2, you change the wording to read parallel to the
west.
west of Ringwald. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Foster. I didn't know that.
All right. We have a motion to make that amendment. Roll call on that motion, please.
Who's second?
Second by Hines.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Fairchild,
Yes.
Florima,
Yes.
Hines,
Yes.
Kearney,
Yes.
Neal,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Kroll,
Yes.
Patton.
Yes.
And we've made the change to that legislation. Any other committee reports? Yes, Ms. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Development Committee has one item, number 2 on the agenda. It's the second reading of a resolution authorizing the mayor to support an agreement with the Three Amigos, Chillicothe LLC, providing for a community reinvestment area tax exemption of 75% for 15 years. And that resolution is going to go for all 3 readings.
Okay, thank you. Any other committees have reports of anything that's approved processed? Yes, Ms. Kern?
Yes, I would just like to make council aware of the Neighborhood Safety Drug Treatment and Rehabilitation Amendment Act that is going to be put on the ballot in November. And there are 4 coalitions who are working on this, and we have to have at least 1,300 signatures from Ross County. 44 counties out of the 88 counties must be represented in order for it to get on the ballot. And this amendment does a number of things that we know need to be done. And one is that we'll bring more money back into the counties. And the 4 things that are outlined are cut off the addiction to prison pipeline. That is in the amendment, and I will make sure that each person get a copy so you'll be able to read this and see this. We have cut off the probation to prison pipeline. A number of people who are on probation go back. And so would like to look at that in terms of being able to spend more money on more violent criminals rather than just drugs. And the third is to reward personal rehabilitation in prison. Some of these things are being done on a small basis in some of the prison systems that they would earn days off for their prison terms for participating in quality programming. And these are people who are just for low-level crimes, which is very important. I think the main thing that's very significant for us is the transformative investment. And there would be quite a bit of money that would be saved by not sending the low-level to prison, and that money would be sent back to the counties to use for mental health. And I think that is very important. So you will find people going throughout the community getting signatures for that. And I will get with our committee and see whether or not that we can come up with a resolution from City Council to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stein. Any other reports on any other committee activities that's going on currently? All right. Not seeing any, we'll move on to reports from our officials. Dan, our mayor, just recently gave our city State of the City speech, but he's up to, wants to give his report again.
I promise this one will be shorter. Thank you, President Arnold. Just commenting on a couple of tonight's items, specifically items 3 and item 2. Item 3 in particular, which is on for first read tonight, I noticed we have a couple of school board members in the audience tonight. I just want to comment on that process, which I think has been really good. You know, the construction in those neighborhoods, the feedback from the neighbors. I attended last month with Councilwoman Fairchild community meeting. It really feels like those neighborhoods are in touch with what's going on. I think they feel like they're a part of the process. So I want to commend the school board and their staff on really working with the city on that project. And then on item 2, we've been working with the school board as well to make sure language and that sort of thing is accurate. She's only on her 6th day, so I'm not going to ask her to stand and give a presentation, but I would like Donna Schinkel, our new transportation director, to stand so everybody can welcome her. Donna moved here from Chicago to start last Monday and has hit the ground running, so give a nice welcome for Donna. Thank you for being on board, Donna. We'll expect a full report at the next council meeting.
And your favorite show.
As I mentioned in the State of the City, with regard to our existing sidewalk ordinance, we do have something in front of council in committee that's related to that ordinance, but it seems like we might need to change that ordinance, and I don't know if we need a new committee assignment request or if you think that we can change it within the existing request. If that's necessary, I'll do a new request. But maybe
We have 2 requests, one's downtown and one's residential.
Yeah, residential, and the question, what the mayor is referring to is there's a part of the ordinance that's on the books that we have to modify.
It basically says if we want to assess the taxes, or we want to actually make a city repair of a sidewalk, council has to vote to do that. And the scope of the problem might be such that we want to change it to give some more discretion internally. And I don't know if it needs a modification of the assignment or not.
I'll look at the assignment request to see if it's vague enough to include that as well, or whether it needs to be more specific.
Thank you.
Sure.
And finally, comment and thank City Council for spending a large part of their Saturday in the transit facility working on strategic planning. Some big tasks, tall orders that they're addressing, infrastructure, long-term planning. I doubt it's anything that anybody wanted to be doing on Saturday morning, but it really is important work. So thank you for putting that time in and continuing with that process. It's important. That'll conclude my report.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. And our auditor, Ms. Crystal Sputnagle.
I have one item on the agenda, and it's item number 7, to amend Chapter 163 of the income tax. This is something that's required by the new House Bill 49. So these are changes that must be in effect by February the 24th, so I ask that this gets passed today. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And our law director, Ms. Rutherford.
Well, thank you, President Arnold. The Law Director's Office doesn't have any report to offer tonight. However, with recent events and the fact that the Law Director's Office works so closely with law enforcement, we'd like to remember the two fallen officers in Westerville, and to remember to thank our brothers and sisters in law enforcement for the job that they do. Thank you.
Very good, thank you very much. I don't really per se have any kind of report to give this evening, other than the fact that I would like to thank all the council members that attended down at the for the workshop and planning meeting that we had this Saturday. It was nice to have everybody together for a discussion like that. We don't often have that opportunity, and I'm kind of echoing with the mayor that, showing my appreciation for everybody coming. I hope everybody got something out of it, if that will help, and hopefully we'll be able to have some other meetings like that so that we can have some good discussions like that. It's very good. And since I have this little bit of opportunity, I'll wish everybody happy Valentine's Day too. So, moving on, we have our audience participation. We do have a council rule that does limit each speaker to a 5-minute presentation, and a total of 15 minutes per any given subject. As you get close to your 5 minutes, I will give you some sort of an indication that you have about a minute left so you can wrap up your presentation. Anybody that wants to speak is welcome to. If you would, just come up to the microphone. We do need your name and your address for our records, if you would. Do we have participation, people that would like to participate this evening?
Yes, sir.
You're it? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Hill. I live at 233 North High Street between Chestnut and Mill. I was the individual that left a letter in all of your mailboxes. Did you all receive those? No? Oh, no. Wow, okay.
In our city mailbox is correct, at the city building.
Yes.
They'll eventually get them.
Okay, I'm very sorry to hear that you didn't get those, because you'll have to read them later. I do also want to preface my remarks by saying that 2 weeks ago I had a wonderful conversation with Councilwoman Neal on this subject. I also provided a letter to Mayor Feeney, the same one I sent to you, and also Chief Washburn as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I come before you this evening to hopefully focus your attention on what I believe is a very serious issue facing the residents of this city. If you read the letter I left for each of you, obviously you didn't, you know why I am here. Over the past decade and probably longer, the streets of Chillicothe have increasingly become a place where far too many motorists behave as if traffic laws simply do not exist. Excessive speed, ignoring red lights, stop signs, and reckless operation are common and widespread. Make no mistake, I am not accusing the Chillicothe Police Department, past or present officials in the city, of purposely ignoring this problem. You have all been asked to do more with less. In my conversations with former Mayor Everson, I gained a much broader understanding of the fiscal challenges involved. Over the past decade, as you well know probably, Ohio communities like Chillicothe have endured significant tax revenue losses, over $1 billion, and the local government fund cut in half. Speaking with Chief Washburn back in 2016, he acknowledged his frustration with the situation and stressed the need for additional manpower and vehicle resources. When I met with Mayor Feeney in December, he also acknowledged the traffic citations were below average and expressed what I believe was a sincere desire for improvement. But all of you as our elected city council have a major role in this equation as well, and that is what brings me here tonight. As I mentioned in my letter, I have spent a significant amount of time researching this subject. A simple Google search of benefits of traffic enforcement will provide a plethora of information. Any law enforcement official will tell you that it extends far beyond speed and accident reduction. A quote from the website of the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies reads, and I quote, "Law enforcement officers have known for many years that the vehicle stop is an effective tool for detecting criminal activity. Frequently, routine vehicle stops result in the identification of wanted criminals or the seizure of illegal weapons and drugs. Perhaps more importantly, the use of visible traffic enforcement can have a positive effect on overall public safety, including the reduction of vehicular crashes, criminal incidents, and other forms of social harm," end quote. In short, by providing the means for effective traffic enforcement, you are simultaneously attacking the more serious problems facing this city. In my way of thinking, that is money well spent. If overall budget demands have no room for increased funding toward this effort, then every single innovative and creative means to do so should be fully explored, examined, and employed. When it comes to traffic enforcement in Chillicothe, I fully understand that there are many contributing factors which have resulted in this situation. But I find it hard to argue against my belief that one reason stands above all others. Very simply put, that reason is no consequences, no compliance. The more you can get away with, the more you will push the limit. As regards the proposed expenditure of some $20,000 on feedback devices, whose purpose, as stated in the Gazette story of January 29th, is to, quote, "help determine future speed enforcement needs," end quote, I remain open-minded and willing to be educated on their use and effectiveness. But to all parties concerned, law enforcement and city leaders, let me offer free of charge my own feedback on present speed enforcement needs. Bridge Street, Main Street, Water Street, High Street, Western Avenue, University Drive, Plyley's Lane, Bellevue Avenue, Piatt Avenue, Yoctangi Park. While you debate on that $20,000 and then potentially wait for delivery and installation, those would be great places to direct your efforts in the meantime. Gazette editor Mike Throne responded to my submission of the letter that I left for you, which I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to read because it was quite long. He thanked me for the submission but told me it was probably too long to publish. And in reply, I asked him if he would share some of his thoughts on the subject with me. He expressed some views, not all agreeing with what I wrote in that letter, but the one thing that stuck in my mind was this. He said, and I quote, "I think people speed because they view it as a general flouting of the rules and that they think that it is no big deal." Unfortunately, there's a lot of truth in that. But ladies and gentlemen, on August 11th, 2016, at 5:30 in the afternoon, 73-year-old Donna J. Good was driving south on Watt Street, and when she got to the intersection of Main, her vehicle was broadsided by a 10,000-pound plus recreational vehicle exceeding the speed limit, running a red light with no insurance, I should add. And as a result of that accident, she lost her life. I think if you ask the family of Donna J. Good, they will not agree that it is not a big deal. And neither do I. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Combs. Do we have any other people in the audience that would like to speak this evening? Not seeing any, we'll move on. Next on our agenda is old business. Does anybody here in council have any old business they'd like to bring forward? Yes, Ms. Patrick?
Thank you. I just have one item. Tomorrow is the nuisance abatement board meeting at 2:30. And if anybody has any nuisance issues and you can't make the meeting, let me know. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Patrick. Anyone else? Moving on, petitions and correspondence received by our clerk.
Mr. President, I distributed to the members of council and city officials a copy of a notice I received from the Ohio Ethics Commission, just reminding everyone of the obligation to file financial disclosure statements for this year, and I call that to your attention. Secondly, I did receive a letter from Paint Creek Housing Partners, LLC, informing the city of their intention to create a residential rental development located within a half-mile radius of the city. The information is in the letter that I distributed. The address is 108 Star Drive, which I think is either within the city or adjacent to the city out off Western Avenue. And that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fawson. Do we have any new business to bring up? Anybody? Not seeing any. Then we move on to committee assignments and meeting dates. Other than our normal meetings that we have with most of our various committees, does anybody have any meeting dates they'd like to announce this time? Okay. Then we move on to our legislation. So, Mr. Fawson, whenever you're ready, we will start off with item number 1.
Second reading of an ordinance approving the action of the Planning Commission of the City of Chillicothe in rezoning property located at 1285 Western Avenue, Chillicothe, Ohio, from single-family residential to general commercial. And this is set for a public hearing on March the 12th at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, and that will be here first. Moving on, item number 2.
Item 2 is second reading of a resolution authorizing the mayor of the city of Chillicothe, Ohio, to support an agreement with Three Amigos Chillicothe LLC, providing for a community reinvestment area tax exemption of 75% for 15 years and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
And that will move on. Item number 3.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing traffic and signal changes in the area of 2 new city school buildings located in the areas of Arch Street, Chestnut Street, Cherry Street, Mill Street, and Allen Avenue, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
And that will move on. Item number 4.
First reading of an ordinance approving the solid waste management plan and declaring an emergency. First reading.
That will move on to next meeting. Item number 5.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing and directing the Safety Service Director to advertise for bids and enter into contracts for annual supplies and maintenance and repair of the equipment required by the City of Chillicothe, Ohio for fiscal year 2018 and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Make a motion.
Mr. Hines?
I'd like to waive the 3-read rule on that.
I have a motion to waive the 3-read rule, seconded by Ms. Corcoran. Roll call on that motion.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Fairchild.
Yes.
Florima.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
We've waived the three-read rule. Roll call on the legislation, please.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Fairchild.
Yes.
Florima.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that ordinance has passed. Item number 6.
First reading of an ordinance authorizing the city to participate in the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program for road salt and declaring an emergency. First reading.
And that will move on to the next meeting. Item number 7.
First reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 163, Income Tax of the codified ordinances of the City of Chillicothe, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Mr. Kroll,
At this time, I'd ask that we please waive the three-read rule.
I have a motion to waive the three-read rule, seconded by Mrs. Patrick. Roll call on that motion.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Fairchild.
Yes.
Florima.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
That motion is passed. Roll call on the legislation, please.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Fairchild.
Yes.
Florima.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
And that legislation, that ordinance has passed. Anybody have anything they would like to add to the meeting this evening? Not seeing it. This concludes our business. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Mr. Florina?
Absolutely.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Hines. Roll call on the motion to adjourn.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Fairchild.
Yes.
Florima.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Kearney.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Tatman.
Yes.
That concludes our meeting. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.